Hello everybody, I'm Grandmaster Alexandra Kosteniuk and I'll comment for you one of my games from the US Open Blitz Championship. It's the game from the 6th round. I'm playing against Grandmaster Amanov. At this moment Amanov was leading in the tournament. He was 1 point ahead of me, so if I wanted to catch up with him before the last round, I needed to win this game, especially since I was playing white. We started the game very fast. It was a Sicilan Defense, e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop g5, which is a Najdorf variation, e6, f4, knight b2, d7, queen f3, queen c7, longside castle, b5, bishop d3, bishop b7, rook h2, e1, bishop e7, and here is the first moment in the game when I'm choosing between two very interesting lines. The first one, queen g3, and the second one, a very sharp line, knight d5. Both lines are very interesting and exciting, and actually in my book, Diaries of a Chess Queen, I will tell a little story about this position. So in the game I played queen g3 before, and here if I wanted to play for an advantage I have to play knight d5, sacrificing my knight, and after e takes d5 I took with the pawn, e takes d5, king d8. You can see that my opponent plays very fast, and we just can say that he knows this position very well. Probably he's already played some games with it. I haven't really faced this position in my practice, although of course I have analyzed this position, and you can see I played knight c6, which is the main theoretical move here, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, knight c5. Again, if I look at the clock, we see that black spent only 14 seconds, while I already spent 1 minute and a half. So here I moved my bishop to c4, and at last my opponent started to think. Why? Because normally white plays here bishop h4, and after the game my opponent told me that that was the move he analyzed most of the time at home. But actually bishop to c4 happened. This move happened in one game. It was the game between Alexei Shirov and Luke Van Valley, and after bishop c4 in that game black played knight f to e4, and later on, after some mistakes, black won this game. But my opponent probably wasn't familiar with this game, and still after knight f to e4 it's very complicated and interesting. But of course black has some other moves, and my opponent replied rook c8. That's possible, and here you can see that I'm thinking again about my move, and because of course I couldn't remember all the lines that I looked at home, but the most important thing is to remember the main ideas of the position, and here that's how I could recall this bishop h4 move, because the main idea of the position for white is to attack the black pawns, which on g7, on f7, which black cannot protect. And we should still remember that I sacrificed the piece for just one pawn, and I'm trying to use the fact that the black king is in the center, that the black pieces are not very well coordinated, and black, on the other hand, is trying to simplify the positions. They're trying to exchange as many pieces as possible, but that's not as easy as it sounds. So here my opponent spent quite a few time, and at the end he didn't make a good choice. He had some interesting alternatives to the game that he made that he played in the game, such as, for example, rook to g8 or knight c or knight f to e4. He cannot play g6 right now because I would take on f6, he will take on f6 and I will play f5, threatening to take on d6. He has to protect the pawn by playing bishop e7, and here I have a very strong move, which is queen e5, threatening to take the rook on h8, and after rook moves, for example to e8, I will play f6, winning the bishop on e7, and my position will be absolutely winning. So if we look at the clock, I have 2 minutes 50 seconds while my opponent already has 2 minutes. So even though I spent some time choosing variations and lines at the beginning of the game, while my opponent was playing really fast, now I'm leading in time, and after queen takes c6, the last move of black, I also have a very big advantage, because after queen takes g7, rook g8, his pawn on f7 is hanging, and after some thought I took the pawn, and here he played knight c2 e4, and probably before playing queen takes c6, my opponent missed my next move here, which is bishop takes f6, and suddenly he realized that here his rook on g8 is not protected. If he takes with the knight, I will take the bishop on e7, queen takes e7, checkmate. That's probably what my opponent missed, and he's in a very big trouble here, because he has too many pieces that are not protected, and his king is weak, and his pieces are still not coordinated, and he's just losing. So he spent some time trying to find a way to save this game, but it's too late right now. So he took on f6 with the bishop. I took the rook, which is not protected, king c7, and now here I noticed and I made a very nice double attack, which is queen takes h7, check to c7, and the knight on e4 is hanging. He played king b6, queen takes e4, queen takes c4, queen takes c4, and here he resigned, because after rook takes e4, I will take the pawn on d6, rook takes d6, rook c6, rook takes c6, king takes c6, rook e6 check, winning the bishop on f6, and the game. Now you see that we are discussing this very interesting and exciting game. So I won this game, I won this mini match. In the last round I won also 2-0, and I became the US Open Blitz Champion.